Sims, let's go.
Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you're watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight, we're going to be talking to Pastor Corey Rosenke. He's going to help us find out how to find our soul. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. I'm here with Mr. Corey Rosenke. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing delightful. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
I'm glad to have you as well. I know I'm just sitting here just super cheesing right now because I'm like, I got to make sure I say Rosenke. So you say I got it, I got it. Woo!
You got it. Yeah. We can't all have really cool names like Miracle Sims.
Oh. Well, there you kindly look. Shout out to Mama. It comes in handy. It's so funny. A friend of mine, she was naming all her businesses or books and stuff after herself. It was like Lucy this, Lucy that, and I picked on her about it. And then come to find out, here I am doing it years later. But it's like, I mean, it just works because miracle this, miracle that. Anywho,
It's so good.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
When I got my book published, I suggested to the publisher, hey, should we go with a different name? Because I was like, hey, well, there's some pretty cool names out there we could make up, but they're no, we want your name. It's like, oh, okay.
I debated about that too. I know someone was like, when you do, I guess, different type of genres and things like that, maybe it's best to write in a pen name. But I'm just like, at this point, we're establishing Miracle Sims as I guess, a thing. So I mean, it's everything under my name. It's fine.
Well, of all the people that I talk to on different shows, different podcasts, your name is, I can remember it. It's like
Yeah.
Miracle Sims. I know that one. I don't remember everyone else's, but yours stands out for sure.
Hey, well, look, to God be the glory. Yay. Memorable. Hopefully for good reasons, but the name is a good start.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Corey, tell me where you are, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm currently in California. I live in a place called Mountain View, which is right between San Jose and San Francisco. It's about 10 minutes to San Jose, 30 minutes to San Francisco. But I've been here for 7 years, but originally from Canada, born and raised, grew up there. That's where our kids were born. That's where I got married. So yeah, we moved down here 7 years ago. I moved down to California, the Bay Area here, to be a pastor. And so we've been here for quite a while. My wife was saying actually last night, she was talking about it being cold. And she's like, I finally acclimatized to California weather, because it was actually hot yesterday, but she was feeling cold. So we're like, wow, you have acclimatized. It took 7 years, but you've acclimatized.
Oh, wow. I was gonna ask you, like, how's the differences between the two places?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I'm from rural Canada, so I'm a country mountain boy. And so to be put in the Silicon Valley all of a sudden is a big culture shock. But of course, and there's no winter here. Well, there's winter, but not what I would call winter. It's kind of strange. There's never any snow. There's never any weather. Every day is the same. The sky is blue. There's no clouds. It's kind of the same temperature most of the time. And so there's a part of that that's really nice. And a part of me misses a good old fashioned storm. I miss having the weather be a topic of conversation. Right. So.
Got you. You know what? As you said that, man, it just made me think about again the magnificence of God, because at the end of the day, it's like it's not that far to Canada. You know what I'm saying? It's just like right
Exactly.
there, right? And then it's just so different here than it is there. And then I'm in Georgia, so it's so different over here than it is California. It's just, and we're all in the same country, or
Yep.
except for when you were in Canada. And so
Yep.
it's just one of those things where it's like, how,
Yeah.
but it's a
It's
whole
amazing
different.
here. I mean, and I sounded like maybe I was saying negatives about California, but one of the things I love about it is, especially where we live, I mean, it's where the redwoods meet the palm trees and the
Mm,
oceans meet the Sierra Nevadas, and the desert meets the trees. This kind of everything kind of collides here. So you're never more than a couple hours drive from totally different environments. So if you want to go to be in the desert, want to go to the ocean, want to go to the mountains, they're all right here.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool too, though. Crazy
Yep.
cool.
Yep. It is.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I hope that you all have been, experiencing that, and I guess the family and everybody experiencing all those different things and stuff. Because I mean, I've been to the mountains a little bit. I've been to, I guess, the oceans, and I haven't been to the desert. Well, no, I think I spent a little time in Vegas, but I
Mhm.
didn't out working though, so I
Right.
haven't experienced those places to be like, I'm just gonna go here and experience. So
Right.
I was gonna say I haven't experienced desert, but I mean maybe, but that wasn't really. I feel like it was a desert. I feel like I
That's like
did
the
go to.
nasty desert. That's not the pretty desert,
Yeah.
Vegas. Yeah.
So I could still experience desert, I guess. And
Mm.
I experienced some snow, not a lot.
Mhm.
Not Canada snow for sure.
Right.
I'm sure. So, and I want to apologize. Let me apologize. I should have said Pastor
Oh,
Corey.
no, I'm fine with any name. Just don't call me late for dinner. Oh, man, that's what my dad would have said. I can't believe I just said what my dad would have said.
Nice. Awesome. So pastoring, and I'm sure doing many more other things. I feel like you're keeping some stuff under wraps for us right now. So what are the things that you have going on outside of pastoring?
Right. Well, like you mentioned, pastoring. I have recently written a book, so I'm now an author, and that is kind of consuming a lot of time. Really, really excited about it. So traveling around, talking to people about the content, and just trying to get it out there. Really excited about the information that it gives people. Really, I'm kind of on a mission right now to help people come to a greater sense of self awareness. And when we're
Mm,
we're aware of ourselves, we have a much better chance of success, of happy living. And so I'm kind of been on that mission recently. I'm also a musician. Before I was a writer, I was a musician. So I recorded an album and traveled around, did the musician thing for a little while.
mm,
I'm also a coach, transformational coach. So when I'm not pastoring, I know oftentimes I'm coaching people from all over the place, generally over Zoom and online kind of thing. So I'm a busy person, but really, really enjoying my season of life right now. And so yeah, it's good being busy doing things that I find meaningful and transformational for not just myself, but for other people as well.
oh, man, amen. Look, I'm right here with you, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really appreciating, the season I'm in life as well. And I knew you had some more things up your sleeve because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I have about 50 other things I do too. I want to hear about all of them,
Yeah.
man. Okay, so let's just chat about the music real quick. What kind of
Sure.
music can we hear from Pastor Corey?
Well, it's a rocker's album is what it is. It's a gospel rock, I guess you would say.
Mm,
Yeah, I for a lot of years I've been writing songs and doing music, and I'm a guitar player,
mhm,
and so yeah, I recorded an album I'm really proud of. I feel like I play with some of the best musicians on the world on that album, so it's not just kind of a album I recorded myself. I'm pretty proud of it. There's some really great musicianship on it. And so it's interesting because I recorded the album. I was a lead pastor for 5 years. Kind of got to the point where I was burned out a little bit and really felt like I wanted to record the album. So I ended up stepping back from pastoring, recorded the album, thought I would tour a little bit, do that sort of thing. Quickly became apparent that kind of the life of a traveling musician wasn't necessarily what worked best for our family, especially at that
mhm,
stage with young kids and everything. So we didn't really pursue that too hard, but my album's out there and I'm very, very proud of it. It's gritty, I think. And so, yeah, I mean, when I'm not preaching and I'm not writing, I'm generally strumming a guitar somewhere.
that's cool, man. That's one thing I guess I wish I had in regards to playing a instrument or something, because I feel like it would have helped my songwriting and stuff. Like
Right.
have the things in my head, like I hear it and I know
Right.
what it sounds like and stuff, but to get it out, to get someone else to create it, that's
Right.
been one of the hard things for me. So
Well, that's something I forgot to mention. So I'm also a music teacher at a school, and so I'm in summer break right now. So of course I forgot about that one. But yeah, I've been teaching grade 3s, 4s, and 5s music at a school for a few years now, and that has been a lot of fun. Just what you mentioned, getting these young kids on an instrument. I've been teaching them guitar and bass and drums and songwriting last year. I started teaching them songwriting, and it was beautiful and exciting to see some of these little kids, just with the kind of songs they wrote. And it was amazing how deep some of them were. Like some of them I was just blown away, right? Just coming out of these young minds and just trying to fan that flame in them, right? To those thoughts that you're feeling and thinking on how to get them out on paper and communicate them to others. And especially through music. Wow, that's a powerful medium.
Man, you got me thinking again because I know my son, he's 4 now, but I got this footage of him when he was like 2 or something, 2 or 3, one of those. And I was looking at this church. It was a church for like a potential venue we were looking at and whatnot. And we just in there walking around with the pastor XYZ. And next thing we know, I know he went off on like the piano, and I think maybe the pastor was over there or somebody else was over there. Next thing I know, it's like I hear scales. I was like, okay, da, da, da. I was like, is that my son? I was like, oh, the camera, like, is that him? And he was like, that's the thing that kind of blew my mind because we had him on one of those little piano toy things, but that was our first time like seeing him on a real one. And the fact that he just wasn't over there as a baby being like do 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 do, you know what I mean? He was like,
right.
I'm like,
yeah,
wait a minute, this kid, like, it kind of blew my mind that day because up until that point we were kind of playing around with instruments and stuff where I was teaching Zumbini and whatnot at that time, and so I had all these little bongos and little maracas and stuff like that. So if he had did something on the drum like do 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 do, that wouldn't have been like a big deal because I'm like, oh, we've been doing that.
Right.
But the fact he just, I was like, wait a minute, we might need to figure this out. Yeah. I talked to my husband about it. You don't see the dynamics of me and my husband. I'm telling him about the thing. He's all like, and I'm like, maybe we should get him into some classes. He's like, oh, well, maybe he should learn the violin. Husband, like you always go.
0 to 60.
Step above. He goes a step above or whatever it is. That's what got me here doing this, like doing daily inspiration. I said, oh, maybe I'll do like once a week, once a month. It's like, well, successful people do it every day. Husband, like, and now I'm doing daily inspiration. So I guess he's my muse,
Right on. Excellent.
But yeah, so that's our little music situation. I don't know. Do you teach virtually? Do we need to get our son?
Not yet. I don't. Yeah. I will say this though, there is when I was a kid, I did not like to play music. In fact, I remember whether it was school or church, they're always trying to push me into some sort of acting role or some sort of musical role, and I just resisted and resisted and resisted. And then there was a moment, what was I, probably 13 years old, where it just went snap, and I was like, I want to do music, right? And that's so I know a lot of parents, really want their kids to learn music, and they're discouraged because they're not interested. But it's amazing how the day comes, maybe where it snaps, and there it is.
I know. I really don't know what the kid's gonna be interested in because he see me do all this like creative artsy stuff and music and film and movies and whatever. He see me do all these theatrical things, and then my husband sees into like software development and all this type of stuff. And then on top of that, like when I had my venue and we were getting a lot of work done and stuff, so he's seen plumbers and you know what I mean. So he's been exposed to so many different ideas when it comes to like work and stuff. Where who knows what he's gonna like actually do, but he sings. He goes around here singing all the time. He builds cities. Like he's like taking all his cars. He's like, "Mommy, I want you to see the city and all this stuff." And so cars, building cities, and singing. We're gonna see what
sounds like a mixture of his mom and his dad. That's perfect.
So we'll see how that works out for us later in life. I'm like, if he's not building me cities and giving me cars, and when he gets older, then I don't know, because that's all he does now.
Yeah.
But anywho, enough about all that. So music is a passion project. You got your Christian work out there. We're gonna hear more about that because we definitely want to see, send the people wherever your music is and stuff. But tell us about the books then, because I know you're very excited about that.
I am thrilled about this. I am very excited about it. So, Yeah, like I said, I've my mission is to kind of help people come to a greater sense of self-awareness. We look at the world today, and it's not hard to see that things are tense. I mean, when there's not chaos and controversy, there's depression and despair or confusion, and this just seems to be growing. Especially we think of the last 10 years, even the acceleration of this tension that we see in our culture today. And we need to ask ourselves why. And I really believe that a large part of the answer comes that we've forgot what it means to be human. We've forgotten who we are, and because we don't know who we are, we just run around bumping into each other. And the whole world, all our culture is focused on stimulating the mind and satisfying the body. I mean, that is every TV show, that is every classroom. That is our interactions with most people, the body and the mind, the body and the mind. And yet we aren't just body and minds. As human beings, we are body, mind, and soul. And I believe that we've forgotten that. And I believe that is the root cause of the disruption that we see in the world today is we are stimulating the mind, we are feeding the body, but our souls are starving to death. And so when I wrote this book, The Magnetic Heart of God, Understanding the 5 Cravings of Your Soul, that was really what I was endeavoring to do, was to say, hey, listen, you aren't defined by the reflection looking back at you in the mirror. You aren't defined by what the weigh scale says. You aren't defined by the diploma on your wall or the ring on your finger, right? Or the particular career you have. You are a soul, and that is the attribute that best defines you. And so the book is really about removing the mask and saying, hey, we've been masked for so long. And even in our interactions with each other, we're looking at each other, we're seeing shapes of some kind. We're hearing a tone, and somehow we're defining each other in these ways. But underneath all that, we are souls. And so the book is about uncovering that and exploring that and saying, we have cravings that propel us through life and time that are beyond biology. They are even deeper than psychology. And the book is about exploring those issues and relating them to ourselves in a way that says, hey, I can now see myself. I understand myself better. I understand, I look at my neighbor and I go, why did my neighbor leave their spouse? Right. Or a lot of us have tension in our family where they're like, why won't my sister talk to me? Right. Or we get a job that we thought was going to be the answer. It was going to satisfy us. It was going to bring us joy and contentment. And then we're in it for a year or two and realize I'm not happy. Right. Why is all this true? And that's what the book really explores. It removes the mask. It goes deep and it says, this is who we are. And now in understanding who we are, we have a greater opportunity for compassion, and for contentment and for peace.
I just kind of want to sit here and say, well, go ahead and teach us, Pastor Corey, because I mean, I'm right here with you. I've definitely seen, made those observations as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the question. Is like, well, not just say what can we do, but and I know you probably won't give us the whole book or anything like that. But I mean, if there are any highlights or things that we should think about when it comes to what you just shared, I mean,
Right.
I would love you to continue to teach us in this moment about.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, one of the first things that I get, so I go, because I'm kind of promoting the book right now, I'm on a lot of talk shows, some live, some recorded, some are Christian, some are I talk to psychologists, some are atheists who just kind of want to do battle with me, and I'm just saying yes to everyone because I want to go and share the message, right? But I often get asked, what evidence do you have? Like, what evidence is there that we have souls? I mean, because obviously I'm a man of faith, and I'm a churchgoer, and we talk about the soul all the time. But even in the church, it's kind of ambiguous when we talk about the soul, but we really aren't defining it, right? And so the book is really about, hey, this is not ambiguous. We can define this, and when we have definition, we have clarity. When we have clarity, we can actually do something about it. And so people ask, what evidence do you have that we have souls? And I often tell people, first off, I say you are your own best evidence that you have a soul. And that is to say, we all intuitively know that we exist beyond biology. And that is, of course, for the sake of clarity, that's how I define the soul in this particular context. It's that part of us that exists beyond biology, right? We have cravings that no other earthly creature has, right? We look at the world around us, and monkeys are, I often say this, monkeys may be happy with bananas, and seagulls with whatever they can get at McDonald's parking lot. But we humans require more. We have a desire in us that reaches out, that seeks to reach beyond. And so we're not just content with kind of what the rest of the world is content with, or the other creatures, right? Where it's like food, water, sex, shelter, the hope to live another day, so we can once again have food, water, sex, shelter, the hope to live another day, and the cycle continues. No, we as humans, we crave justice, which is a totally non-biological craving. It makes no sense, if we're kind of buying into the whole evolutionary idea. Then the craving for justice makes no sense. We crave the distinction between a moral right and a moral wrong, right? We crave identity. That's a big one. You can have all the money in the world. You can be married to the most beautiful person in the world. You can have all the fame in the world, but if you don't know who you are and whether or not you have purpose and value, there's something in us that's missing. We're craving identity. These are non-biological cravings that prove the existence of our non-biological selves. And so I always say we are our own best evidence that we have souls. And then there's another one on it, right? There's another way to look at it, and that is to say we have the evidence of what I call universal and uncoerced conclusion. That is to say that every culture in the history of the world, right, whether they lived in the jungle or on the plain or in the mountains or by the ocean, whether they built their homes out of rock or wood or snow blocks of snow, or they're hunter fishermen or farmers, they all independently came to the awareness of the soul. And what I mean is that the knowledge of the soul was not evangelized. It didn't spread through the world like religion did, right? Independently, like when the English came to North America, the American Indians already believed in a soul. The English didn't bring an awareness of the soul to the American Indians. They brought a religion, right? But the American Indians believed in a soul just as the English believed in a soul. The Romans believed in a soul, and yet before they landed their legions north of the White Cliffs of Dover, they were landing amongst the people who already believed in the soul, right? And the continent of Africa believed in a soul long before they were ever, influenced by some sort of outside force. Everyone across the world, all these different cultures came to the same conclusion that we exist beyond biology. And out of that awareness of the soul is how all these religions got started, right? That's why the world is full of religions, because all these independent cultures were looking for some way to describe what they knew about themselves. And so the first part would be to say, when I talk about this, is it makes sense. It is a reasonable, and I would even say a scientific fact, that we exist beyond biology. There is so much evidence. If I'm sitting in a room and my son comes running in and says, "Dad, did you hear that loud crash?" I'd be like, I didn't hear a crash. Maybe he's imagining things. And then my wife comes in from the garden and says, "Honey, did you hear that loud crash?" I'd be like, "Oh, two testimonies. They weren't together. Maybe there was a crash." And then there's a knock on my door and the neighbor opens it and says, "Hey, did you guys hear that crash?" I'm like, wow. 3 testimonies. There must have been a crash. I didn't hear it, but there had to have been a crash. Well, imagine those 3 testimonies times by hundreds and thousands of times, And so when every culture on the face of the earth has come to the conclusion independently that we exist beyond biology, that is a very, very strong fact. So that's not even bringing in real religion into it yet, right? That's not even bringing faith into it yet. This is just bringing historic and scientific evidence into it, saying, hey, we have souls. And yet we live in a culture and a society that totally ignores it, right? It's all about the brain and the body, the brain and the body. Are you eating right? Did you go to the doctor and get checked? Do you have your vaccines? Are you wearing a mask? Do you have a good mattress so you get a good sleep at night, right? On and on we could go with it, right? And then with the mind, I mean, just think of the society today. Endless stimulation for the mind. Stimulation of the mind is their cultural obsession. You can pick up your phone, and within seconds, you can be watching like a Friends episode, one of the early ones, or you could be watching, my son does this all the time, a bunch of grown men building a castle out of cardboard boxes, right? Or you could be listening to music, or you could be looking at porn, or you could be watching someone get murdered. Like, it is amazing, the stuff that comes, but the stimulation of the mind is the cultural obsession. And yet the interesting thing about this is, when you think about it, we live in a time of unprecedented prosperity. And when I say unprecedented, I mean never before in the history of the world have so many people had such unfettered access to education, to comfort, to leisure, to entertainment, to knowledge, to access to wealth. And yet every study shows that we are more unhappy than ever. And we have to say, why? How is it that we are, as even I'll just use America for a moment, we are ever progressing forward towards the American dream, possessing more, possessing more, possessing more. And we've been told forever that if you just get to the top of that financial mountain, you'll be happy. If you just get to the top of that sexual mountain, you'll be happy. If you just get to the top of that, educational mountain, you'll be happy. And ours is the generation that is realizing that none of that's true. We got to the top and there's nothing there. And so that's what my book does. It explores, it's saying, hey, we've been running around looking in all the wrong places. And so what the book does is it removes the mask and it looks deeper and says, hey, this is who we are. We have these 5 cravings of the soul, as I call it in the book, that are driving all of our human ambition. And the reason the book is called The Magnetic Heart of God, Understanding the 5 Cravings of Your Soul, is because I believe these 5 cravings were placed in us by our Maker on purpose. And they serve the purpose of drawing us back to him, of bringing us into connection with him, because there's no other place that they can be satisfied but in him. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this message. It's been interesting. I've had pastors read it, theologians read it, psychologists read it. I've even given it to a few atheists, and I've been looking forward to their response from it. Right. And some of them have said, you know what, I'm not quite ready to agree with your conclusions yet from a faith standpoint, but boy, awakening to the realization of the soul is a powerful thing, because you finally understand why you're doing what you're doing. And when you understand why you're doing what you're doing, well, it's like Aristotle said, understanding yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And really, that's what I've been endeavoring to do, is to help people say, hey, you know what? The world has been telling you that you're defined by the mirror, that we're defined by your education, we're defined by our nationalities or our skin colors or whatever preference it is we have. And that is not what defines us. And the soul is the great leveler. The soul shows how all of our motivations actually come from the same place. And that's why, in addition to being removing the mask and bringing clarity regarding ourselves, I also find that understanding the soul is brings us to a point of unity, because we realize that we are all the same. We all are experiencing the same cravings. We're all in this together. We're all moving forward together. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Man, oh man. Well, the only question I have, because I'm in agreement with everything you were saying there. So I mean, I don't have anything to say about that. He dropped all the mics on that, in my opinion. So hopefully the people receive something from what you've already said. I guess the only thing I'm wondering right now was, like, how was it for you to receive these downloads from the Lord in order to share today? Like, how was that when you was getting these revelations and these amazing things? You're like, was it mind blowing, or was it like, oh yeah, like how was it for you?
Well, for me, without going into too much background, I was raised in poverty. We were very poor. We were homeless as a family for a significant amount of time. We lived at one point, when we finally got a place, we lived way high up in a log cabin at the top of a mountain. When I say top of a mountain, I mean we looked down on the clouds, kind of thing. And so a lot of my youth, we were moving around all the time. There was all sorts. There was poverty. There was a lot of stuff going on below the surface. I was lonely, and so I wandered the mountain hills as a lonely kid with my dog and a book. And I would just wander the mountains, find a tree to sit under and read. And as a young kid, I always wanted to know why. And so as a 10 and 11-year-old, I was reading Plato. I was reading Aristotle. I was reading Marcus Aurelius and all these philosophical books. And then as I got a little older, I was into Freud for a little while, and psychology has kind of been a pursuit and a passion of mine. And then, of course, I was introduced to C.S. Lewis and A.W. Tozer, and then I came to the Lord, and everything began to make sense. And so for me, I've always been in pursuit of that why. And so I'll share with you what the book explores all this stuff in detail, in great detail. But the 5 cravings of the soul are security, identity, independence, significance, and innocence. These are the 5 cravings that are at the root of everything we do, everything we think, everything we desire: security, identity, independence, significance, and innocence. And the first 4, you will find mountains of psychological textbooks that will identify these things. You can find everywhere from Freud to modern day psychologists or psychiatrists who are going to talk about the human need for security or the human need for identity, or significance is one that psychologists are really exploring today. So those first 4 are, like I said, in psychological textbooks. The 5th one, innocence, is one that I added from the scripture, and I'll tell you, it is second to none. When you begin to dissect them, our human need for innocence, basically every argument we ever had, it was based upon our sense that someone else was accusing us of wrong thinking or wrongdoing. And what do? We have to push back. when we are accused, right, we have this thing within us that rises up and wants to push back. And so no one has ever brought these 5 together before. You will hear an independent, psychologists talk about security, right? I mean, part of security is the whole idea of our survival instinct, or our need to survival, but it goes so much deeper than that. When we think about the cravings of the soul and security, we're thinking of, yes, physical security, but also relational security, right? We all have a deep need in us to know that our hearts are safe in the hands of those who hold them. And so the first, so basically when this happened, the day that it all came together, I was preaching, I was actually, Easter 2018, I was preaching a 5-week Easter series. And on Easter Sunday, of course, everybody comes to church. You have, the faithful there, the regular church attenders are at church. And then there's the people who only come on Christmas and Easter, they're going to show up. And then there's the people who don't want to be there, but they're visiting family, they're visiting aunt and uncle, they're visiting their parents, whatever. So they got to go to church, and I was trying to think about, how can I communicate a message that is going to be meaningful to everyone? And so I was really kind of praying about this. And this is when it came to me. This is how it all comes together. That when, I don't want to get too preachy on your show here, but the point was, Jesus didn't just die to save your soul, right? He is the answer to your soul's need, right? And that's when this kind of all came together. So it started at that moment as I was working on that series. And then, of course, I've been writing the book for 4 years, and it kind of evolved and it grew into this. And any authors out there will probably relate with this. It's like I wrote the book and then deleted it, and then wrote it and deleted it, and then wrote it and kept half of it, but deleted a bunch of it, and then gave it to a bunch of people, and people criticized it, right? So I deleted a whole bunch and wrote again. And it's been, like I said, 4 years in the making. And yet I'm excited about it because it is 100% original content. You won't find a book like this anywhere else. There's nothing that it can be compared to. And so that part of it is exciting. And that's also a little bit nerve-wracking to realize that there's no particular mentor I can go into in this regard, because it's breaking new ground. And nobody's talking about the soul today. Not very much, especially sometimes I go on shows and people want to talk about it from a faith standpoint, and I can do that. Other people, I go on and they say, leave faith out of it. Just talk about it from a psychological standpoint or from a philosophical standpoint. And I'm like, I'm okay with that, as long as people get to have this awareness of themselves, and then hopefully that awareness of themselves will lead them to the right place.
Like, I'm sure we could go deeper with all of this, because there's the whole question about the difference between spirit and soul and all of that, right? Even as you were talking about your examples, I was like, one clear example to me that there's obviously something. I know they say there's 3 parts of us and everything like that, but you can at least acknowledge too, with knowing that when we pass away, our body is still here, but the person is no longer here. So that says something, there's at least a separation there.
And every culture has come to that conclusion. Yeah. That's amazing.
So I know I'm sure we can go deep about it, but I want to give you at least some time to chit chat with us about, your coaching services and whatnot, and whatever you'd like to share regarding that.
Well, coaching is fantastic. For those people who don't know what coaching is not counseling. So as a pastor, I counsel a lot of people in different environments and whatnot, but coaching is completely different. So when you go to a counselor, you are going to someone to receive counsel, right? Obviously, you're going to them saying, hey, perhaps they can help see something that I'm not seeing. Or oftentimes people go to counseling if they have some sort of trauma in their past and they're looking to explore that and find healing so that they can live a fuller life in the present. And of course, that is a very important, a very meaningful experience. Coaching, as a coach, I approach you saying you are healthy and you are whole and you are capable, to a reasonable level, right? And so as a coach, I would come to you and I would say, you might come to me because you're wanting to get it, move forward in your career, or you may come to me because you are having some sort of relationship issue that you'd like to have solved, but you haven't been able to solve it yet. Or some people come to me for spiritual coaching. I really want to get somewhere with the Lord and I haven't been there. So how can I get there? And so as a coach, I don't tell you what to do. I don't play the role of a counselor. And as a coach, what I do is our job is to ask questions, ask the right question, to make observations, and help you discover the answer that is already inside you and that is there. Because, in the truth of the matter is neuroscience and psychology has taught us a long time ago that people don't do what they're told to do. They do what they tell themselves to do, right? People are far more likely to do something if they've discovered the answer instead of just been told the answer. And so what I do as a coach is I help draw the answer out of you, right? And I don't do it by trying to manipulate you, like I said, or by just saying, hey, here's your problem, I see it, right? I do it by asking questions and helping you discover that answer within yourself. And so, like I said, there are a lot of coaching is really, really popular right now in the business world, especially among executives. People are saying, hey, I want to be a higher performance person. And so a coach comes alongside to help them. But it also helps people. I've talked to a lot of people who have been just like, you know what, I have this friction between me and another person. It's been here. Sometimes it's a family member. Sometimes it's a friend. It's been here for a long time. How do I get past this? And so the coach comes alongside and, like I said, asks questions, makes observations, and helps the person discover the answer that's already there.
Okay. Well, like I said, it's amazing all the things you've been doing. And one more question that I do have for you, that I kind of thought about in the beginning is like, how does it feel for you to be using all these different gifts and talents and things like that for the Lord? I heard you say you have Christian rock. Obviously your book is centered around things about, the gospel of Jesus and things like that in the Bible. Obviously being a pastor. So using all these gifts and talents for the Lord, what can you share with us regarding that?
Well, I told you a little bit about my upbringing. And so I left home when I was 14 years old. And I left home with a chip on my shoulder. I left home with the idea that I was going to be the best. I was going to prove myself. I would never again be in the situation that I grew up in. And so I just had a fire under me to achieve and achieve and achieve. And I discovered firsthand the emptiness of that type of self-obsession. And so I remember when I was 17 years old, I was reading the Iliad by Homer for like the fourth time probably. And in the Iliad, it's the whole story of it's Greek mythology, right? And it's a story between the battle between Troy and Greece, right? You have Achilles and Hector and all these famous, Greek mythological heroes. And in the story, there are the gods, the Greek gods. Part of them are on the side of the Trojans, and part of them are on the side of the Greeks. And there's just chaos, and they're backstabbing each other. They're lying and manipulating and having affairs, even among the gods, right? It's not just the people. And I remember a moment where it's like a switch flipped in my brain, and I said, God isn't like this. And then I was like, well, if he's not like this, who is he? What is he like, right? And that really drove me into wanting to understand and know who God was. And so coming from a background where from a very young age, I was pursuing everything the world had to offer, and I was going to be the best, and I was going to have it all, and realizing that it was a meaningless existence. And then having that moment where I'm like, who is God and what is he? That's what really drove me to the point where I fell in love with Jesus. for what he's done for me. Obviously, when we talk about Christianity or Jesus, we're generally oftentimes talking about him as a savior who died for our sins and all that stuff. And all that stuff's very true. But he's so much more than that. We were designed to live in connection with God. And as I mentioned before, the reason we see the chaos in the world today is because we have stopped living in connection with God. And that severed connection has driven us to all these, like I said, all these places where everybody is running around looking for security, identity, independence, significance, and innocence. But the problem is they're trying to find it in you, or they're trying to find it in money, or they're trying to find it in their diploma, right? Or they're trying to find it in the next person they're going to have an affair with, or they're trying to find it in a new vehicle, or whatever it is. And it never satisfies. And the reason it never satisfies is because there's only one place it can be satisfied, right? And so I learned that at a young age. And that's where, to me, man, I'll be honest, I love the Eagles, as a musical band. My wife loves Elton John. We went to his concert a little while ago. I love that kind of music. But for me now, as a singer and as a musician, I don't see the point in singing unless apart from singing ballads to my wife once in a while, unless I'm singing about my God, my good friend, my faithful leader. And so I don't know. What can I say other than God is where it's at, folks? When you truly step into a relationship with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the one who designed you to find life and purpose and fulfillment in himself, it takes life to a whole new level. And so that's always what I'm encouraging people to do in whatever soft or pushy way, whatever way is kind of acceptable to them. I want to encourage them, boy, life is found in God. And he gave you all these things around you as blessings. He gave you a spouse. He's allowed us to be born in such a beautiful place. We should embrace all these blessings, but we can't replace God with them. And so if you can live in connection with God and at the same time enjoy his blessings, that's the secret. That's the recipe for success right there.
Talking good, Pastor. Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna get ready to pass the offering plate, because y'all done got all kinds of good wisdom today, man. Pastor Corey, where can we find more information about you and your book and all your endeavors? How can the people reach you?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, first off, I would say that my website is obviously the place where kind of everything is centralized. So CoreyRosenke.com. I kept it simple. My name. I wish my name was Miracle Sims, because that would make it easier. But CoreyRosenke.com, kind of shows you where you can buy the book anywhere online. It's available kind of worldwide anywhere online. You can grab that simply and easily. I also have links there where you can communicate with me if people are looking for coaching or whether they're just looking for further information. And of course, I'm on Corey Rosenke Ministries on Facebook. I just went on Twitter. I'm trying to navigate that world. Boy, that's a crazy world there. I'm not sure about that one, but giving it a whirl. So C Rosenke at Twitter. I've kind of just been starting to kind of get up. There's lots of stuff on YouTube, whether it's sermons or music. My music is on Apple and Amazon and anywhere else. It should be, if you type in Corey Rosenke or the Magnetic Heart of God, everything should just pop up on the screen there. But definitely the website is the best place.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with us before you go?
I guess I would just want to share with you guys all the reminder that, like I said, you are not defined by the weigh scale or by the mirror or by the people's opinions of you. You are not defined by the language you speak, right? Or the ring on your finger or the diploma on your wall. We live in a world that is constantly trying to say, these are the things that define you. And of course, they're saying that because then those are the things that they can control us with. These things do not define you. You are best defined by your soul, because our souls are the core of who we are. And so I would encourage each one of you that in addition to feeding your body, in addition to the joy of stimulating your mind, don't forget to feed your soul. And really, like I said, my book is all about how to do that. What do you feed a hungry soul? Ultimately, we can talk about it being hungry, but we have to know what to give it. And so that's what it's all about.
There you have it, friends. Thank you so much, Pastor Corey. I appreciate you taking out the time today.
Thank you so much. What a privilege.
Thank you so much for watching the GSL Talk Show, and thank you to Pastor Corey for dropping those gems with us tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and check out Pastor Corey